welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about food.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that's always a good topic, right?
Yeah.
But we're going a little deeper than just like, what's good to eat.
Okay.
This is going to be how food impacts your brain.
Brain food.
Yeah, exactly. Brain food.
Yeah.
So specifically, we're going to be looking at the risk of dementia and how that's all tied to what you eat.
Okay.
So this all comes from a recent article in Infobay.
Infobay.
Yeah, it's a big online newspaper in Latin America, and they were talking to this new study
Yeah.
that's linking something called pro-inflammatory diets.
Pro-inflammatory.
Yeah, to increased dementia risk, which is kind of scary when you think about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, isn't inflammation like a good thing sometimes?
Yes, that's a great point. I mean, like when you get a cut or something,
Yeah.
inflammation is what heals it.
Correctly.
So how is that a bad thing when it comes to food?
So it is a natural process. It's your body's way of, fighting off infection and stuff.
Right.
But it's when it becomes chronic, like a constant low-grade fire in your body, that's when it starts to cause damage.
Okay.
And the brain, unfortunately, is not immune to that damage.
So it's like when inflammation is out of control, that's when it becomes a problem.
Exactly. It's
That-
all about balance.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do foods even like lead to this chronic inflammation?
Well, certain foods kind of act like kindling,
Kindling?
Yeah, they just fuel that fire of inflammation. And those are things like,
Give us the culprits.
okay, so we've got saturated fats,
Okay.
refined carbs,
Huh.
and of course added sugar.
The usual suspects.
Yeah,
It's
basically.
like the typical Western diet.
Pretty much lots of processed foods, fast food, sugary drinks, all that good stuff.
The stuff that tastes so good but is so bad for you.
Yeah, exactly. And the Infobay article actually mentioned a study
Okay.
where researchers actually measured this inflammatory potential
Oh.
with something called the Dietary Inflammatory Index, or DII.
BII.
Yeah, it's like a score for your diet.
Yeah.
Every food contributes points.
Oh, so it's literally like grading your diet based on how inflammatory it is.
Exactly. The higher the score, the more likely you are to have that chronic inflammation we're talking about.
That's kind of a cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
Did they actually find a link, though, between people with these high DII scores and dementia?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
The findings were pretty surprising. They followed over 1,400 people over 60
Wow.
for an average of 13 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a serious study. They tracked their diets and their cognitive health,
Okay.
and the results were pretty clear. The people with those highest DII scores,
Yeah.
meaning the most pro-inflammatory diets,
Right.
they had an 84% higher chance of developing dementia.
84%
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
compared to the people with the lower scores.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, that's a big deal.
And they also found that for every 1 unit increase,
In the DII score,
yeah, there was a 20% increase in the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Alzheimer's being the most common type. So that's pretty scary. I mean, how does the inflammation actually contribute to that?
Yeah.
What's happening in the brain?
Well, imagine your brain is like a busy city.
Okay, I like this.
Right, all these messages constantly being sent.
Yeah, keeping everything running.
Exactly. Now imagine chronic inflammation as like major road construction,
What?
disrupting the traffic flow,
Yeah,
making it harder for signals to get through,
not good.
right? Over time, this can lead to some serious communication breakdowns.
Oh, I see.
Kind of like how dementia affects the brain.
That's such a good analogy.
Thanks.
I mean, it really helps to visualize it.
Yeah.
Now, the article also mentioned something about ultra-processed foods being particularly bad.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst.
Why is that? I mean, what makes them so different?
They're like culinary creations.
Culinary creations.
Yeah, but they're stripped of all their natural nutrients.
Okay.
And they're just pumped full of artificial ingredients, preservatives, additives.
So like those packaged snacks and sugary cereal.
Exactly. Instant noodles, all that stuff. The things you reach for when you're in a hurry.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But they're not doing your brain any favors.
You're saying they could actually be harming our brains.
Well, there was this new study presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference this year.
Okay.
They followed over 130,000 people.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, for 43 years.
43 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, they're really dedicated. And they found that those who ate just 2 servings of processed meat a week,
2 servings.
yeah, just 2, had a 14% higher risk of dementia.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's making me rethink my lunch choices.
Yeah.
But why are they so bad for our brains? I mean, what's the mechanism there?
Well, researchers have found a few ways these foods can really wreak havoc.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, they compromise your cardiovascular health.
Cardiovascular health.
Yeah, so your blood vessels don't work as well.
And that's important because
Your brain needs a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients.
right through those blood vessels.
Okay.
So it's like cutting off the supply lines to the brain.
A good way to put it. What are the other ways? The second thing is when you're filling up on these ultra-processed foods, you're probably not eating as many of the good things,
Like what?
like fruits, vegetables, legumes.
Ah, the good stuff.
Right, and those are full of antioxidants and flavonoids, which can really help protect your brain.
Okay, so it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, you're getting hit with the bad stuff and missing out on all the good stuff.
Not good.
And then the third thing is that these ultra-processed foods contain compounds that can actually damage brain cells directly.
Oh, wow. So they're like attacking your brain?
Kind of. They trigger inflammation and oxidative stress.
Oxidative stress. What is that?
It's kind of like a rusting process.
Rust.
Yeah, but happening inside your cells.
Okay, so not good.
Definitely not.
Okay, so to recap, pro-inflammatory diets, especially those high in ultra-processed foods, are linked to a greater risk of dementia.
Yeah, it's a bit of a scary picture.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not at all. It's about empowerment.
Okay, I like that.
Now that we know what to avoid, we can focus on what we can do to protect our brains.
Right.
And the article talked about these anti-inflammatory diets.
Yeah, like the Mediterranean diet.
Exactly. And the MIND diet.
What makes them so special?
Well, they're packed with foods that have anti-inflammatory effects.
Okay, so they're fighting back against that bad inflammation.
Yeah, and they protect the brain. The Mediterranean diet, for example.
Yeah.
It emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, olive oil, fish.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
It's really delicious.
And naturally low in processed foods and added sugars,
Exactly.
which is what we're trying to avoid.
Right. It's all about those whole, unprocessed foods.
Now, what about the MIND diet?
The MIND diet stands for Mediterranean-Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is, but basically it combines the best of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet.
Which,
It's designed to lower blood pressure,
yeah.
but the MIND diet really focuses on brain health.
So it's like a targeted approach to keeping your brain sharp.
Exactly.
Okay, so what kinds of foods does it emphasize?
It's a big fan of leafy greens,
Nice.
spinach, kale, all that good stuff.
Okay.
They're packed with vitamins and antioxidants,
And those are important
like
because...
crucial for healthy brain function.
Okay, so I'm hearing leafy greens are important.
Definitely.
What else?
So berries.
Okay, I like berries.
Especially blueberries.
They're my favorite.
They're rich in flavonoids.
Flavonoids.
Yeah, they're powerful antioxidants
Okay.
that can actually improve communication between your brain cells.
So there's really something to that whole blueberries are brain food thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm convinced.
It's not just leafy greens and berries, though.
What else?
The MIND diet also wants you to eat lots of nuts.
Okay.
Olive oil, whole grains, fatty fish like salmon and tuna and legumes.
So it's like a really diverse diet,
It is. It's meant to be delicious and satisfying with lots of variety.
not like a super restrictive
Not
diet.
at all.
Does the research show that it can actually lower the risk of dementia?
There's a really interesting study from the US
Okay.
that was published in the journal Neurology.
Neurology.
Yeah. They followed over 14,000 adults.
That's a big study.
It is.
Yeah.
And they found that those who closely followed the MIND diet had a significantly lower risk of developing cognitive issues.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really promising.
Did they mention if the benefits were different for men and women?
You know, it's interesting. They found that the benefits were especially strong for women.
Really?
Yeah, they seemed to get even more protection against cognitive decline when they followed the MIND diet.
That's fascinating.
It is. Makes you wonder why there might be a difference.
Yeah, like could it be hormones or something?
It could be. There's definitely a need for more research there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's how men and women metabolize certain nutrients differently.
Interesting.
But regardless of the reason, it shows how important it is to think about diet and brain health
For sure.
and how those strategies might need to be tailored to different people.
That's a great point. So we know what the MIND diet wants us to eat more of.
Yeah.
What about what it says to limit?
Well, like the Mediterranean diet, it recommends limiting red meat,
Okay.
full-fat dairy products, fried foods, and sweets.
Oh, no.
Yeah, all the good stuff.
The bad stuff.
Right.
But it's not about depriving yourself.
No, it's about making choices that nourish your brain.
Yeah, it's about respecting your body and treating it well.
Exactly.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive into food and brain health, what are some key takeaways?
Well, I think one of the big takeaways is that while the research doesn't prove that certain foods directly cause or prevent dementia,
Right.
it definitely suggests that our food choices can impact brain health as we age.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the evidence is pretty compelling at this point.
Yeah, and it's empowering to know that we have some control over this.
Right. It's not just like a genetic lottery
Exactly. We can make choices that support our brain health.
every time we eat.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's like we're building our brains with every meal.
So even small changes can add up over time.
Absolutely. Start by adding more of those brain-boosting foods we talked about.
Like, what are some easy swaps people can make?
Well, instead of chips, maybe grab some almonds
Oh,
or add some spinach to your smoothie in the morning.
easy enough.
Yeah, and trade that sugary soda for a glass of water.
Good old H2O.
Exactly. Those little things can make a difference.
And if you want more structure, there's always the Mind Diet.
Yeah, it's a great roadmap.
It gives you a plan to follow.
Exactly. With delicious recipes, too.
Yeah, it's not about deprivation.
No way. It's about finding foods you enjoy that love your brain back.
I like that.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to really inspire them.
I would say, imagine you could see a picture of your brain 10 years from now.
Okay.
How would your food choices today change that picture?
Wow, that's a powerful image.
Would your brain be vibrant and healthy, or would it be showing signs of decline?
It really puts things into perspective.
The choices we make today create the reality of tomorrow. And when it comes to brain health, those choices start with what we eat.
Such a good reminder. Well, this has been such an interesting deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Keep those brains sharp and keep diving deep.